Hello and welcome to the weekly blog, the online video production blog, and thank you very much for those people who gave me some feedback last week. If you'd like to send me some feedback, you can catch me on Twitter. Cam the Cameraman is my handle there, or you can check out the blog at camthecameraman.com. It would be fantastic to get any comments or any questions in either of those two forums. That'd be fantastic. This week I had a question that came through. I'm brand new to video and I notice my hands shake when when I'm taping, resulting in shaky videos. Is there an editing program that will help remove that? Thank you. Well, yes, there is and there isn't. And the first thing we'd have to say is let's make sure that the video isn't shaky, and is there some methods and some things that we can do that can ensure that we don't have shaky videos? Well, the first thing that we can do is that we can make sure we use a tripod. And as you can see, this is what I'm looking at right now. All the videos that we've got are on tripods, and that's fantastic. That can make sure that the video does not move. It's really important for online video, particularly that the video stays stationary, because if the whole video moves a little bit, what happens is that the algorithm has to compress more and more of the picture, whereas at the moment the only thing that's having to be recompressed and redrawn is my mouth, my hands as I move them in front of the camera, and the very windiness that's out, the very windy background that I've got out there today. It is ripping up a storm here today. But the less movement, there's the black thing there that's not moving, and there's a lot in the background, my antenna so I can watch the cricket, all of that's not moving, and so therefore I'm able to compress and get better quality pictures. You'll have all seen compression artifacting where there's a lot of movement. Particularly pay attention in sporting events where there is ticker tape. You'll see the artifacting come up really, really obvious there, because every part of the frame is actually being refreshed all the time. So it's a good idea to use a tripod. Now, tripods are great if you've got a lot of space, but not always the best thing to use. I use this. Jim Boot, who some of you will watch, uses a GorillaPod, and this is actually the one that I have to take off this camera every week so that I can put it on the tripod. Jim uses this and mounts it on his monitor and mounts it on bits and pieces, and he's got some of these for his SLRs as well. They're really, really handy because you can wrap them around anything and all of that sort of stuff. You can get ones that have even got a pan-tilt head, which looks fantastic. I've never used one of those, but GorillaPods, and there's a lot of different varieties of these. The trick with these, though, make sure you get one that's heavy or strong enough to support your camera. And the other downside of them, of course, is that sometimes it can be a little bit hard to move the camera head and get it all balanced and those sorts of things, whereas good quality tripods, like the Miller that I use here, do tend to make that job a little bit easier. Even that can sometimes be a bit much if you're going out and about and you're wanting to record little interviews with celebrities and that sort of thing. If you can, it can be really handy just to get yourself a beanbag and put that in your kit. A beanbag is a great way of being able to get your camera mounted on a flat surface, and so it's nice and steady, and also it's pointing in the right direction. Mounting something on a flat surface, often you need to tilt it up, tilt it down a little bit, and a beanbag is a good way to sort of compress it and push it around. You can see they've used one here in this photo on an SLR, and you can actually buy one specifically for video cameras, but I wouldn't recommend that. Just get mum to sew up a little bit of stuff and put some rice in it, and it'll all work really, really well. If you are going to have to move your camera and you're going to move around, you can use things like stabilizers, and there's all sorts of contraptions available on the net. I haven't actually used one of these, but that looks like one of the more advanced ones. And you can build your own counterweighted designs and those sorts of things as well. And there's heaps of designs on the net. Just look for video stabilizers and video stabilization devices, and you'll find heaps of them. If you don't have that and you are having to move, another really good technique is to make sure that you get a camera, or not so much a technique, but a really good use of the camera is to use the image stabilizer on the camera. Now, these are great for removing just small amounts of shake, or at least taking the edge off them. They're not great for big bouncy movements and all of that sort of stuff, so don't use them for that, but they will take the edge off your hand movements. So these tend to be the function of higher end cameras. The camera we've got's actually got one on it, but isn't required, of course, because it's on a tripod. And in actual fact, if you've got an image stabilizer and you're using a tripod, you should really turn the stabilizer off, because otherwise you get the floating movement, which, as I said before, means that the whole image is constantly changing. So make sure if you can, get a camera with an image stabilizer. Now, a lot of the flip cameras don't have that as a function. If you end up shooting some bad footage, or if you're shooting from a vibrating platform such as a car or a boat or something, and you do still need to stabilize that image, there is software, videocopilot.net. I got some tutorials and I got some footage that we're going to stabilize in a moment. There's a great tutorial here for those of you who use After Effects. Those of you who use After Effects have probably stabilized footage already, so it's not really a big issue for you guys, but certainly it's an option there. I'm going to show you how to use it in Final Cut. There is plugins for Adobe Premiere, which is another piece of software that I use. I didn't have one installed on the machine that I had here, but Final Cut does have a image stabilizer function that comes plugged in. Okay, here's Final Cut Pro, and here is some footage that is requiring some stabilization. As you can see, it's bouncing around, probably shot from a dolly truck, and needing a little bit of stabilization before we can really use it. Let's just play that again. And there it is there. We can come over to our effects, and in our effects we can find the image stabilizer tool. If we drag that onto our clip in the timeline down here, what we're presented with on the output window is an area that we can stabilize, and we can choose the area that we're going to stabilize and make it look nice. What it'll do is it'll take that area and it'll bounce the image around and counteract every movement that the camera has made. That takes a bit of time, and we just need to play around in our settings there to make sure that we get all of that right. Under filters, we can play around with the size of the position, what we actually want to stabilize. You'll actually find they use this as a bit of an effect sometimes too, with to use the stabilization effect as the function for moving text. It's a pretty common effect that's being used a lot nowadays. They use the motion track that the stabilization tool uses, particularly in After Effects, and then use that with the image. With an image or a title text. It's a fairly common effect that's being used nowadays. Haven't actually used it in any of the videos I've done, and certainly none of these ones, but a very common effect that you're seeing around, particularly with the motion tracking technology. So we've applied that. Here's one I prepared earlier. I rendered out. I put the little tool there, and what you'll see is that it takes, and let's play that through. And you can see that the car is then stabilized. So let's play that through again. Let's go back and see our original video. Okay, let's have a look at our original video again. And let's have a look at our stabilized video. So we can see that the car remains the same. One of the problems with stabilization footage technology is that, of course, we do have to zoom the camera around to counteract every movement the camera makes. So what we end up getting is the central image stays stationary, but we do get a lot of black banding at the top and bottom. We can zoom that out with a reduction in quality, and we can try and work around that by putting bars and things across the bottom of the page. We would have to be a bit creative with that one because there is quite a lot of movement. We may have to move everything down or something like that. So certainly the best bet is to actually stabilize your footage beforehand by shooting stable. If you can't shoot stable, make sure that you use the technology, but be really, really careful. Best thing, always use the tripod, use the GorillaPod, use a beanbag, or even use a wall. Lean up against a wall and get some real stable pictures from leaning up against a wall. That can be really helpful as well. In future episodes, we might talk about hand-holding footage, and we'll show you how to actually go about hand-holding a video camera to make sure you get the most stable piece of footage. And if you've got any questions, please shoot me an email at cameron@stuartmedia.biz, or you can catch me on Twitter at camthecameraman.